Good evening and welcome to the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority's Directors Meeting, August 18th, 2020. And we will start to call to order items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the Directors Meeting on July 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of county contract for the ACDS Inc. Who will be presenting that?
Martha Worsham. Good evening.
Thank you.
If the board allows, I would like to group the three contracts that are listed. We have 4 contracts. The first 3 contracts, I would like to group them because they're all for the same services and just different amounts. So when the board is ready to approve, I will mention each vendor with the amount that we are, that the county is requesting for approval.
No objection.
Okay. So these are contracts for early intervention and preschool services, and they do have a different procurement services process than the regular personal service contract. These contracts do not require approval from the county ledge. Instead, the vendor applies directly to the New York State Department of Health, and the state interviews all the prospective vendors and approves them. Nassau County is mandated to contract with all the New York State approved providers. The 3 contracts in front of you have a 5-year term, and the reimbursement rate is 59.5%. The amount for each item has been, it's based on the historical spending for the last 5 years. So the first contract that I'm submitted for approval is ACDS in the amount of $25 million. The second one is Interdisciplinary Center for Child Development in the amount of $15 million. And the third one is Kids Therapy Services in the amount of $30 million.
Mr. Chairman, unless there's an objection, I'll move all 3 together.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I do have a question. I'm sorry, Martha. Just to confirm that these are all 5-year contracts and they have historically been 5 years. There's nothing new about the term.
Yes.
Okay, so we're renewing on the same. Okay,
I'm ready to go. And the reimbursement rate is all subject to change potentially if the state cuts aid, right?
Right.
Correct. It all depends of what's going to be determined by the state due to the pandemic. Yes.
Sure.
I vote aye as well. Thank you.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of a county contract for Pratt Brothers, Inc.
Again, Martha Worsham. This contract is with the Department of Public Works. The vendor was selected through an open competitive bidding process. 2 vendors submitted the proposals and Pratt Brothers was awarded the contract. The term for this contract is 3 years from the day of execution with a 1-year renewal option. The contract is valued at $16 million and the amount to be approved includes funding for the 1-year renewal option. The work to be performed under this contract involves labor, materials, tool, equipments, and incidentals for various civil site constructions, such as highways, drainage, etc., throughout Nassau County. The contract will be funded with capital proceeds, and approval of this item does not guarantee borrowing approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the contract, and I do have a question after the second.
Second.
Okay.
Question is just, I believe we approved a contract, a fairly large contract with the same vendor at our prior meeting and the meeting just before that. So I was wondering if DPW could just confirm that these are separate and distinct projects that were bid separately.
Hi, Ken Arnold from Public Works. Yes, these are 2 distinct contracts. One was for resurfacing only, and this one is for all other emergency work, including bridges, drainage, curb, sidewalks, and other miscellaneous items.
No further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Please mark me as abstaining.
You have 4 votes, you pass.
Okay, well, let me see.
You had 4.
Who is the fourth?
Howard, Lester.
Lester, did you say aye?
I was on mute when I said it.
Okay. You said aye. Okay, good.
Yes, I did.
Read his
All
lips.
right.
Read his lips.
Okay.
Thanks.
The motion carries and is approved. The next item on the agenda is an update on the mid-year report on the county's financial condition. And Evan, you will be giving an update on that report.
Yes. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. So staff prepared a report on the administration's update to the multi-year financial plan. That was released, the update was released on June 30th. The report is dated today and will be made available on the NIFA website as soon as possible. It has been distributed to the board in advance of this meeting. As we say in the opening paragraph of the report, Nassau County actually had been making progress toward resolving its fiscal problems before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Regrettably, it now faces extraordinary fiscal challenges that are continuing and whose fallout are likely to burden the county for many years. Projected baseline risks will become deficits if not resolved, and they total approximately $334 million on a GAAP basis in 2020, including certain required accounting adjustments for actions prohibited by the NIFA Act. The projected risks for 2020 are detailed in our staff report, so I won't discuss them now except for the projected risk in sales tax revenue, since that's the largest. But before I do, please note that the projected deficit of the $334 million is prior to the implementation of the county's proposed gap closing plan, which we estimate could potentially provide almost $214 million in budget relief, although more than 90% of the projected savings are non-recurring. What does that mean? It means that they provide no fiscal relief going forward beyond 2020. Regarding sales tax revenue, our analysis indicates that the county will incur a significant year-over-year contraction in sales tax revenue due to the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the state's associated New York pause order. Year-to-date revenues are down 13.4% from the same period last year, including declines of 2.2% in the first quarter and 24% in the second quarter. Although the 2 most recent sales tax checks we received do not make what I refer to as a bankable trend, I wouldn't bet my life on it, they do show a much smaller contraction of 10.8% compared to the same checks last year, as well as compared to the 24% overall decline experienced in the second quarter. So possibly with a lot of luck and no second wave, perhaps sales taxes turn the corner. Our full year 2020 projection for sales tax, which is approximately $10 million more favorable than the administration's, assumes that sales tax receipts will fall 25% in the third quarter and 20% in the fourth quarter compared to the same periods in 2019. We conducted a sensitivity analysis, which indicates that for each percentage point deviation from these assumptions, 25% reduction followed by the 20% reduction. For each percentage point deviation from those assumptions, the county will realize approximately $6 million more or less in sales tax revenue than we currently reflect in our risk projections. The out-year deficits are projected to reach $481 million in 2021, $424 million in 2022, and $436 million in 2023. Our projections for the out years differs from the administration's by between $14 million and $117 million, depending on which year we are referring to. Now, to put the projected deficits in perspective, if they are not closed through thoughtful planning and a dramatic reimagining of how and which services are provided by the county, and a comprehensive restructuring of NIFA and the county's near-term maturing debt, the deficits could require draconian gap closing actions, such as a county property tax increase of approximately 60%, a massive workforce reduction of more than 40%, which, by the way, would translate into a reduction of approximately 2,900 positions, or some combination of both. Now, let me emphasize that these extreme scenarios are not NIFA recommendations. We mentioned these scenarios solely to provide tangible examples of how dire the fiscal situation is and the magnitude of the solutions that must be designed and implemented by the county. One message has been consistent that we and the board has been carrying or presenting is that strong management and legislative cooperation is needed for the county to have any chance of closing the deficits projected for this year and next. Now, perhaps it's obvious, but the county is not alone among governmental entities that are facing similar issues and difficulties related to the pandemic. A terrible economic hand has been dealt to many others. Consequently, and we point this out in the report, we urge the county to use this economic catastrophe as an opportunity to go beyond its pre-existing geographic and political disagreements and examine all options, including those that may have been disregarded in more normal times. And this includes pursuing opportunities for shared services and the elimination of redundant services. In the staff report, we provide links to various other reports that have been prepared over the years by the county and outside consultants, which were filled with many gap closing proposals. We strongly encourage the county to consider implementing the proposed savings initiatives. Since the task of closing the projected deficits becomes more difficult with each passing day, we urge the county to get a head start on closing the 2021 gap by beginning to implement corrective measures now rather than later. That concludes my comments, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have on the report. Howard?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to you and your staff. Probably since I've been on, this is the most difficult multi-year report that you've had to do. This is worse than 2008. There's no question about that in my mind. So I think your staff did a great job with you and to be congratulated.
Thank you.
I have some rather basic questions. The first one, maybe just language, but what is a geographic difference?
Geographic boundaries. So towns and cities and counties, within Nassau County, obviously there are the 3 towns and 2 cities, but there's nothing that prevents Nassau County from reaching across borders either into other counties.
Okay.
Right, so like could Suffolk County and Nassau County buy the same things together? Could they share certain purchasing and services together, right?
Well, so do the villages and the towns.
Yep.
Not all of them, but a lot of them do.
Right.
Second question is, has the controller issued his mid-year report yet?
He has, and well, that's the answer, but I think you're going to ask what?
I'm going to ask, how does it compare to this
Right.
mid-year report?
That's what I assumed. So basically, the controller's mid-year update, the Office of Legislative Budget Review, and ours are all consistent within $7 million, actually. So we're all, some of the components differ, variances in certain revenues or specific expenditure projections vary, but in totality, we are within $7 million of each other.
Okay. That's
Right, but that's, let's put that into context too. The projections are within $7 million of each other in fog, right? We're still in fog. We don't know. We can't predict anything with any degree of certainty because there are assumptions here that are assumed things like we're not going to have a second wave, or something else is not going to happen, or, so to say that these forecasts and projections, they're as good as they can be within a range. But there are certainly, we're in a period of a lot of volatility, a lot of unknowns, and to say that we have any kind of, degree of precision, you can't when we don't know if there is going to be another wave or another round of infections that would lead to another shutdown. So I think the underlying assumption is, should there not be one, this is what people think might happen. But again, that doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but what this also means is there's no degree of disagreement, which is very important.
The baseline is the same.
It means that all the parties agree on the first 6 months, which is actual. So that's the budget office, the controller's office mostly, which is the most important, and the legislative budget review. And they're all working off the same assumptions, which is not necessarily always the case. You're absolutely right, Adam, that this is just a guess into the future. And you know, the most amazing thing is if they're right, but at least they're together on it, and nobody's standing out and saying, no, I don't agree.
Right. I guess my point is that as dire, right, and as gloomy as the forecasts are, which people seem to be, you know, not too far apart on, it's actually optimistic because it assumes there won't be another shutdown. That's all I'm trying to put it in context. But also the other question, Evan, in terms of historical percentages or dollars, is this the greatest out-year gaps that have been identified since the creation of NYFA?
Yes. These are the largest out-year deficits that we have seen since our inception.
One more question I have, and then I'll let Chris go. Is there a delay in the receipt of online sales taxes from the state?
I don't know the answer to that question, in part because we do not, or the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance does not break out separately internet sales tax. So I don't know if there's any lag other than the typical reporting lags, which vary from either 1 month to 2 months, depending on whether the merchant files electronically or manually. So I don't, is there a reason are you suspicious?
I think it comes in on a separate system. The internet sales, I'm not sure that internet sales come in, you know, on merchant reports. But again, I'm not sure about that. And
we're not privy to that. And I've requested and had a number of phone calls with the State Department of Taxation and Finance, and they said they don't track it. This is what they claim. And at the very least, they're not providing it.
Well, it represents a great opportunity for Albany to siphon off funds without anybody knowing about it.
Well, I won't comment on any.
I didn't say they're doing it. I just said it presents an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, our projections are based on the premise that all reportable sales tax is being collected and distributed in accordance with the location in which the purchase was made. So yeah, it may be an online retailer in Kansas, but if the purchase was made in Nassau County is going to get the benefit of that sales tax, not Rensselaer County.
Great. Evan, let me add my compliments to Howard's, to the team's report. I think you did a great job of laying out all the variables and all the dependencies in a way that people can figure out that if they make changes in one area, what the impact will be and what the needs are. I'll also note, I believe at least in the early draft, and I think it survived to the final, that it's not just commentary for its own sake, but we've reminded the county of resources that are available and have been made available by NYFA over the last several years in the form of consultants' reports that have the potential to, if enacted, to save tens of millions, if not more, dollars on an annual run rate basis. And of course, since the county has taken very little action on those recommendations historically, they're all still available. And I think I would commend the people who read this at the governmental level to refresh their memories and refresh their views on those resources and the suggestions and ideas that are offered therein, so that they can be in a position to take the proactive steps that we're recommending, so that they're able to help cushion the blow to the extent that they can on the expense side.
Totally agree, Chris. And I think, in addition to all the reports that have been done in the past, and probably they may even have more value today than they had in the past, given the other choices that may be before them in this post-COVID world. I mean, people are finding things about how much space you actually need if you can have some work remote, or other things that could change as a result. So I think, they're going to have to take a very close look at all of these things, the recommendations we've made, and find ways to do it. I think it's really about the county being more agile, smaller, smarter, figuring out how to do more with less going forward, because the idea is, how can you be more efficient and save costs without having to reduce services? And I think that's really the challenge that they're going to have before them. And, look, the issue of the federal funding, we know that there's still disagreement and gridlock in Washington, and that's the number they're going to get there is uncertain. But I would say that there's probably 100% chance it's not going to be what was in the House version of the bill, and it probably won't be zero either. But whatever that number ends up being, it's still only a one shot. It maybe helps them in 2020, but it doesn't provide the recurring relief they need to have before. And again, just to reemphasize in the report, where we make mention that 2,900, positions, or 60% increase in taxes, we are not recommending those actions per se. So just so it's clear to the public, I think we're just trying to dimension how large the problem is. And if you try to relate the numbers, because when people hear a $400 million gap, well, what does that really mean? People have a hard time understanding, how does that translate into something tangible that they can really wrap their head around. So I think the idea was just to convert it in terms of what that would mean if it involved reducing staff, which would require 2,900 positions to be reduced, or if it were to all be solved by raising property taxes, what that would require. So we're not, just to make it clear to everybody who's going to read the report, in no way is NYFA recommending either of those two options as a solution, or recommending them, just to put into context the enormity of the problem.
Do we need to take any action on, other than acknowledging the staff's report? I don't believe, do we have to approve it?
No.
We don't, okay.
No. If there are no other questions, we can move on to the next issue. If there are any other questions or comments related to the report? And again, I echo the other members in thanking the staff for putting together a very good report in very difficult times. And even in the sort of the back and forth when we tried to do the proofing, the numbers really withstood challenge. So really kudos to the staff.
Thank you. Thank you all for those comments.
Yep. So if not, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss items and matters that may be involving litigation or other issues that are provided for in the statute.
So moved.
And second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.